my name is Host Eric. I'm the host of Talking with the Famous People, and also Eric Strauss News, also known as ESN News, or Current Affairs. I'm excited with the title of my news thing, but this is an example of it, whatever the title is. And what we're going to talk about today is Syrian refugee crisis. So, if you are somewhat aware of anything in the world, you're aware that obviously in Syria all kinds of shit's going down. The issue with Syria is we have Bashar al-Assad, who is the dictator of Syria, who's been in power there for quite some time, over a decade, maybe 2 decades, I don't know, quite a while. And he is what's known as he's a weird kind of Muslim, right? I forget what kind of Muslim he is. But he was presiding over, at one point, a country that was unusually diverse for the Middle East. It had not only a couple of different kinds of Muslims in there, also had Alawite Christians living there as well. And there was a time when Syria sort of aspired to be what Lebanon once was, perhaps aspires to be again, which is a civil island of civilization within the Muslim world. So the problem, of course, is secularism doesn't exactly fly, right? Over there. So let's go back a little further and look at the causes of the current crises in Syria and in Iraq and with ISIS and ISIL, whatever you want to call them, Islamic State of Iraq and Levant. Well, obviously, we began a long time ago, in the 40s, with the Iranian Revolution, the Revolutionary Guard, the Ayatollah, the whole history of Iran going from a weak monarchy that allowed itself to be purchased, allowed its sovereignty to be purchased by the Western powers in exchange for basically personal benefit. And obviously the country's not going to like that. Iran's not going to like that. Unfortunately for them, they went theocratic. So I mean, and that's part of the issue, right, is the rest of the world has gotten over, by and large, the ideology obsession, which constitutes sort of an adolescence for the species. The ideology obsession, the West went through its religion ideology obsession during the Middle Ages and Dark Ages, the Crusades, that time period, those sort of things, when the West was really obsessed with its theocracy. And of course, when you mix religion and law, in other words, when your theocrats are the same people as your king, you know, when your theists are the same people as your governors, then you've got a problem. Why? Well, the problem is this. Instead of appealing to general principles or a set and agreed upon norm of ethics or something like that has to apply to everybody, they reference instead something that's metaphysical, that is, which is to say, it it's both static, it's not metaphysical actually, it's static and yet inadequately responsive because it's static, it can't respond to changing realities. And at the same time, it's endlessly flexible for people in power to interpret it however they want. So it's very difficult for a peoples to develop over time when they are restrained in this fashion by a conflation between the proper role of religion in one's life, which is introverted feelings, basically, and an improper role of religion in one's life, which is extroverted feeling. So functionally, it's when religion goes wrong, it's because extroverted feelers are using it in extroverted fashions. When religion serves well, it's because introverted feelers are using it in introverted fashions. But the problem is this: if the extroverted feelers get in charge of it and actually lock it down, then you got a problem. And if you put in place a bunch of words intended to solidify the linkage between theism and other people, then you end up with what we have currently, which is a whole subset of the world's population, huge millions and millions and millions of people who have been indoctrinated into a belief system that causes that encourages a lot of behavior that most Westerners would consider abusive or in violation of human rights. So now we go back to Syrian refugees, and where do we land at? We've got all these people who are fleeing Syria because Bashar al-Assad has decided he doesn't care what else happens. His only goal, possibly, is to remain in power. And I think it's fair to say that the only way you could convince that man to leave office alive is if you had him at gunpoint and said, walk out of this room, and he probably wouldn't want to die enough to just say, like, no, kill me rather than me leave office. But he's functionally saying that when he refuses to budge on anything. So it's not the Syrian refugees' fault that they're Syrian refugees, right? There's no way you can say they should have done something differently with their country. They did the best they could. It was just, it's just dictators are hard to resist if you're within their sphere of influence. So here we have a bunch of men, women, and children who have to run away because things around them keep blowing up. I think it's important that we here in civilization stop to reflect on what that must be like occasionally, right? It can't be fun. If you were to, if I were in Temple City and, gunfire, and then like my neighbor's house blows up, and like there are kids running out screaming on fire. I mean, I call that a different life than the one that we are accustomed to. And yet we are called upon here to sit in judgment of a policy decision. What should we do with these people who are fleeing this violence? our initial response should immediately be, well, let's help them. That should be our immediate response. It's my immediate response. Well, let's help them. Now, then after your immediate response, that's when you do the actual thinking, and we think about it and decide whether that's a good idea or not, right? Yes, liberals, let me make this very clear to you. I agree with you completely that we need to have that as our gut response. Help them, quick. Totally, we should, right? Conservatives, understand, if you're not exerting energy talking about the actual humanity of the people that you are advocating against helping, then you are gonna just seem evil, and you're gonna seem like a scumbag, and nobody's gonna want to agree with your opinion, because a lot of people, even if it's right, are gonna fixate on the fact that you're a scumbag and not on what the words you're saying. So remember, they are human beings, and we have to consider as significant their well-being and their suffering and stuff like that. We want to live in a civilized world where people help one another when they're in need. Okay, so now that I've established some boundaries for both of the 99% of the people in the world who choose one of those two sides, and you think you don't, but you almost certainly do as well, then okay, now that I've dealt with that, let's go into the actual proper perspective here. So we've got several factors to consider when discussing the policy issue of should we let in Syrian refugees. The first issue is this: how many of them are there? Let's say there were 5. My initial reaction would be, well, of course let those people in. There's 5. How many more are there going to be after the 5? Well, that's it? There's only 5 total? Sure, what the fuck, let them know. Who cares? 5 million. That's an awful lot of people living here. I mean, look, I'm already experiencing traffic a lot in Los Angeles. Okay? I have to be very attentive to which direction, which way I go, and what time of day and stuff like that to avoid traffic. In my hometown of Arcadia, the Chinese people have increased the population density substantially. So, even though it's still a community of homes, single-family homes, basically, the Chinese people have come in and taken the same-size lot and built a big mansion on it, and there are a lot more people staying in that house than are staying in, and we're staying in the house 20, 30 years ago when it was occupied by white people. Now look, because I'm saying Chinese people and white people, you're going to think I'm being racist or something. No, I'm pointing out a simple fact that we have population density issues. I don't care that the population is dense with Chinese people instead of white people. I don't really care. I live in Temple City where it's a little bit less dense population-wise, and it's still all Chinese people, and I love it there. I mean, they're excellent neighbors. They don't bug you at all. They're, for as far as I can tell, I mean, I don't know the people that well. Even though I work with them constantly, I don't really still fundamentally understand the culture very well, I don't think. But regardless, I know this: they make excellent neighbors. It is very much, I don't bug you, you don't bug me, which is how I want it, And nobody ever says anything to me to bother me at all. And I have a really nice relationship with my old Chinese lady neighbor who is the world's hugest water user. In California's drought, she has the lushest yard. It is so full of all these plants. All of them make food, and she's always giving me like this kind of weird, disgusting thing to eat, and that kind of weird, disgusting thing to eat. To which I go like, "Thank you, yeah, thanks a lot." And I take it in, and I give it to guinea pigs, and usually they won't even eat it, So. Anyway, yeah, I'm not bitching about Chinese people. I'm just explaining the mechanics of how it is that refugees, being a form of immigrant, do in fact impact our standard of living. And traffic is definitely a component of standard of living. When I am having to sit in traffic a lot, my standard of living goes down. When I sit in less traffic, my standard of living goes up. What is this? Okay, here, I gotta show everybody this for sure. Why I stopped talking. Because stuff's going on, that's why. Look. Oh. Hey. Stuff's going. You see that? I'll take the phone like this. Yeah.